So I want you to talk to me about how you and Rich dug into and started investing in real estate. I don't know the beginning of your story because I always get to hear bits and pieces of whatever's happening.
Oh, well, I think everybody dreams of owning real estate, so it was never something we didn't want to do. We always wanted to. But I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. The median home price is, over $1 million, and it's always been overpriced. It's just always been expensive. So the idea of buying was just kind of out of reach. And we always thought someday, when we're rich, we'll own real estate, and we can't wait for that day. So we'd work, and then, life would happen. And life really happened hard. Rich ended up being internationally renowned business and personal coach, and wrote a book called Extreme Success that was published by Simon & Schuster. And life was like, things were going great. And we had our 2 kids, and we were married, and had bought our first house, managed to do that. And then on his book tour, he noticed a freckle. And you haven't heard this story?
No.
Oh my gosh, he's a redhead with so many freckles. They're everywhere. Yet he noticed this one, and he's like, well, that's a different freckle.
How? Because he's covered in freckles.
He's got freckles. He's like, this one's
like
different.
Me, I wouldn't notice a new freckle.
Like, a new one. But he did, and he went and checked. It turned out to be melanoma.
And how old were you all then?
We were in our early 30s, and our children were tiny, or little kids, and we were still trading time for what am I trying to say? Time for dollars.
For money.
Yeah, time for dollars. So we wouldn't make money unless we're working, right? So if you can't work for some reason, then you can't make money, and it's terrifying. So the doctor, but even more terrifying was the doctor did more tests, and they saw some growth on his liver, and they said to him, if this has spread, you have 6 months at best to live. And this is the man of my dreams. We're living like the perfect life. So I refused to believe it. I'm like, no. This guy jumps off. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, bungee jumping. He was one of the first X Game athletes.
And he's like the most fit guy you'll ever see.
Like, no freckles, gonna take this man down. Like, I refuse. So I didn't allow myself to go there. And thankfully, he's alive and well today, and they were able to get it all out, and he gets checked every year. He gets it every year, but he gets it in time. But the bottom line is that in those moments, in those months that we didn't know, I had to figure out what I was going to do, because I was a stay-at-home mom at that time. I wanted to be with the kids when they were young. So I just thought, I still had this radio show. My background's in broadcasting. I worked in San Francisco newsrooms. And I still had this little Saturday morning radio show, 1 hour, that I would just kind of talk about current events and stuff. And I thought at that time, I have got to completely change this whole show to how do I make money, and ideally passively, because my kids are young and I want to be home with them.
Yeah.
So I just started interviewing. I completely changed the show and started interviewing rich people. That's the best way I could say it. It's like, what do they know that I don't know? They must know something.
What were you interviewing people for before that?
It was just current events, just news.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was like, okay, I'm on a mission to find out how we get out of this, because once he was diagnosed, there's a lot of medical bills. For some reason, our insurance didn't cover this particular situation. Weird.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we're going through our savings, our investments pretty rapidly, which happens when someone can't work for.
Well, what's crazy about that is I feel like most of us who are healthy, right? We have insurance that we basically never use.
Yeah.
We don't go to the doctor. My kids.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, probably shouldn't be saying it recording. I don't know, my kids have been to the doctor since they were born. Because they're not vaccinated and they don't need school checkups because
you're probably going to get a lot of hate for that one.
I don't actually remember. Actually, I do know. I went on a trip and my mom's like, I'm going to take your kids for a checkup while you're gone.
Oh, that's so funny.
She had them. She took them all for a checkup.
And they're all fine, right?
They're all fine. They recommended one start taking some probiotics and they're fine. But I have insurance because, first of all, I need it because we keep birthing babies, right?
Yes,
but short of that, you're like, if something goes wrong, I need insurance.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't do anything.
And then you think you're good. I mean, Rich was so careful about making sure we were doing everything right. And still, somehow, this wasn't covered, or not all of it. And so we just were kind of blowing through the savings that we had built. And I just thought, I've got to figure out another way. I know there's a world out there I don't understand, and I want to understand it. So I just started interviewing authors, but I really wanted to interview people who had built from nothing. You know, a trust fund kid wasn't going to help me. You know, that wasn't the position I was in. So as I just started interviewing people and reading their books and diving into this concept that I had never understood, it's just like, it's like this light bulb went off, and most of the people I interviewed made their money through real estate. So that's kind of how it started.
So you find out they're all buying real estate. What do you do next?
So at the time, this was like 2003, and this was when the mortgage it was before the mortgage meltdown. So literally anyone could get a loan, and I kept hearing all these ads on the radio of lenders, and I thought this would be a solution if I could just get one of them to sponsor my show, since now we're kind of talking about real estate. And I went down a list of mortgage brokers and finally got one who said yes, they would be the sponsor, but only because all the other ones had said no. So by the time I got to this one, I was like, how about you be my co-host? I'm like, just whatever. What's going to get this guy to give me a big check? You know, because that's what we needed. And he was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Like, okay. And then I came home and like, Rich, now I have a mortgage show. And I'm like, I'm a total sellout. Oh my gosh, but here's the check, you know? And he goes, well, it will be very boring if you sit around and talk about rates all day. But what if you interviewed his clients and just see what they're doing? And sure enough, I was lucky that this particular mortgage broker was helping build wealth through real estate, not just, you know, regular home loans, which also build wealth, but he had clients who were flipping and doing what is now called the BRRRR method, or living in a house, fixing it up after 2 years, selling it and getting all that capital gain tax free. All these things that I had just not heard about.
Man, what a blessing that that's the one that said yes.
That's the one that said yes. And you know what? This was one of those moments, you know, when you hit bottom, and this was bottom for us. This was like, we have a $4,000 a month mortgage, which today would be 3 times that. We went way too big, did the American dream, bought a big house.
Well, it's not just financially bottom. You're like, is my husband going to die?
Yeah. I mean, it was bottom.
Yeah.
And in desperation, in desperate times, that's when we do things that we might not do otherwise.
Yeah.
So I just, in this desperate time, just cried out to God, help me. And it was like, okay, I'm calling this guy. And it was almost like a mindset shift of, I'm going to call, you know, first it was like, I'm going to call these people and see if they want to sponsor me. And that's not very powerful. But by the time I was like praying and I need an answer, I need a solution, I just called, and it was like with so much power. I want to offer you this extraordinary opportunity to be my co-host on a major San Francisco station. And here's what it's going to cost you.
And what's interesting to see now is you've married, that was like 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You've married together the current events with real estate when you talk about
That's
stuff
so
on the
true.
market.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
So you've married together both of those.
And that
skills.
was my college degree. I don't think we're going to talk about college later, but it was broadcasting and political science. So it was just my passion. It's so funny how you don't know where you're going to end up in life, but if you just follow your heart and the things that you're interested in, you'll probably end up where you need to be.
So I want to talk about college, but first, so you start interviewing all these people, but a lot of people have access to, maybe not that kind of access, but they read books. The social media has all these people on it now, like us, talking about here's how you do it, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
And some people still think it's for when I get rich, like you said in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you shift from like I'm interviewing these people to you and Rich are going to build this empire?
How did it switch? I think literally just surrounding yourself with people who are doing what you want to do that seems very foreign. If it's foreign, it's scary. But if it's closer up to you and you start meeting people that aren't that different from you, you know, they're maybe not smarter than you, but they're just doing something different. So when you surround yourself with those people, something changes. And it's perhaps this belief that can be done, or, you know, that's the connections you make. And so for me, it was immersing myself in the knowledge. And then probably the most important thing is I had to shift my subconscious. A lot of people don't realize that our subconscious is far more powerful than our conscious mind. And our subconscious, unfortunately, is filled with stuff that we didn't choose necessarily. We might have been raised in a family that thought wealthy people were selfish or bad, or we go to a church where it's not godly to have money, or whatever it was in our young years. That's all in there, in this subconscious, and it's thoughts that are just there that aren't even ours, and we don't even know might be running us. So I did come from a Christian background. I did hear my whole childhood that it was, not godly to have wealth. And I mean, all the Bible verses there, and people judge people with money. I mean, you see it all the time. They're the evil ones. They're the ones not paying their fair share of taxes, when in reality they're paying all the taxes, or most of the taxes, So I had to discover what was in this subconscious, what had been put there that I didn't choose. And so when I would go into like a deep meditative state and try to imagine the perfect life, like the future self that Rich actually, we did this. It was the future self. It was like, go into a deep state and imagine your future self, the ideal person you want to be. And when we would do that together, and I would picture this, this woman living an abundant life with, just abundance everywhere, friends and love and money and all the things, and charity. I would have like these voices be like, oh, it rejected that thought. And as long as your subconscious is rejecting a thought, even if it's a beautiful thought, a great thought, you'll never have it. And it's because it's different. And as humans, we want what's familiar, even if what's familiar is bad. Like, even if it's abusive, if you grew up with abuse, you're probably going to end up in abuse because it's familiar. But being loved isn't familiar. So it becomes, ugh. So for me, it was like, wealth is not familiar. I'm going to reject that. So I had to, for 30 days straight, just go into this meditation, picture myself wealthy, notice all the thoughts that would come up, write them down, journal it, and then question it. Well, where did this come from? Is this really my thought? And then finally, it just shifted, and I could see myself living the life I wanted.
So did you and Rich do that together for 30 days?
I did that 30 days by myself, but we did a lot of personal growth workshops together. That's how we met, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I would love to hear that story.
It was just awesome. I was actually divorced, single mom, a 1-year-old, and but I had a business. I was actually a talent agent at the time in San Francisco, and I was a workaholic, totally. And my assistant was like, she knew that I was super off balance and that I was angry at men and never wanted to get married again. And just
I think a lot of women start out that way. Right?
Yeah, I was just like, I'm not going to try marriage again. That was awful. And anyway, she was like, put this flyer on my desk and said, this workshop's going to really help you with your business. I'm like, oh, make more money? Okay, I'll go do that. But what it really was just personal reflection, growth. Where can you what is your mindset that's holding you back? What's holding you back? What are these beliefs? And I was able to just kind of break through it there. And that's where I met Rich. I actually, in the breakthrough moment of like, well, it's a long story. I kind of collapsed in front of this group of strangers because they kind of called me out on what was really true for me. I thought I would walk in kind of fake. I was a newscaster, so I'd be like perfect hair, perfect makeup, walk in, and then they kind of had me say something that showed that I really didn't believe that. And I just fell on a floor in a pile. It just sobbed. And Rich, when I opened my eyes, it was Rich. And it was just like, I love you. That was how we met.
Oh my gosh.